So, hello my friend. Today we are going to visit the Kennedy Space Center near Канаверал. Мыс. Пойдем сходим, посмотрим, что почем и что показывают здесь. Будет интересно, я думаю.
With the KSC tour and the 75 with the guided tour.
No, 50.
Okay.
50.
So it's 53.50 with tax. Where do you live?
Russia, Moscow. Russia, Moscow. Russia. $53.
And my dad is 50.
Маленькой.
Does it not a senior?
Везде у них дополнительные сборы налоги. Thank you.
Here's information. So you do have a bus tour.
Все здесь включено.
Atlantis and the launch simulator. It's all included.
All included. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you.
great time
That
today.
is also included, right?
Какая приветливая бабуся. Я в игриву смотрела так на меня. Подмаргивала мне. Как будто бы хотела, чтобы я остался здесь. Ишь ты какая. Надо будет к ней вернуться. Вы говорите об этом? Ну что, все способы хороши. Вот чего входит билет, стоимость $53. Вот такие вещи. Автограф экспонатов даже есть. Совсем вечером будет. О, русский медведь.
I can remember being inspired, like most young children, by TV heroes.
I was inspired, of course, by science fiction.
I think we all have popular heroes, movie stars that move us emotionally or make us feel heroic. But I think I am who I am today because of my father.
My father was a hero of mine.
Because it protects me when my brother tries to beat me up. A hero is someone I respect, like my mom. My hero is my mom, and she inspired me to be a good person. My hero is Shirley Temple. I think my hero would be Winston Churchill. My hero is Dr. Jane Goodall.
all the way to the end of your world to make room for other guests.
What it was like to be one of those first astronauts.
The 33-ton rocket is poised to hurl America's first man into space at 5,000 miles per hour. Alan Shepard will rocket to 115 miles above the Earth. He will weigh nearly 1,000 pounds and be punished the acceleration from Jack towards the rocket.
The million-old desire of all pilots, when you walk up to the airplane, you always kick the tires just to be sure they're not flat. This particular rocket I was never going to see again. So I just stopped as I approached it, looked up into the glare of the spotlights, and took a look at the rocket. Sort of another way of kicking the tires, so to speak.
Как будто бы астронавт летишь в космос. Я в очках покажу сейчас. Потрясающе.
Spacecraft was a key element of the Apollo strategy. We want to prove that ability on Gemini 8. 3, 2, 1, ignition. Our orbit was primarily over ocean areas, out of range of flight controllers and tracking stations. We were on our own.
Okay, Gemini 8, you're looking good on the ground. Go ahead and
Yes, it's really a smoothie.
Hey, congratulations.
Oh, you couldn't have the thrill down there that we have up here. Passing Madagascar, meeting range.
Roger, 8. If you run into trouble and the Jacob goes wild, just send it to command 400 to turn it off and take control of the spacecraft.
Roger, we understand. Thanks, Jim.
Come on, here, thrusters fire. Let's go to ACS off, pumps power on.
We're in a spin at Gina. Send command 400, undock now. It's actually getting worse. Power the system off.
We have serious problems here. We are defining left-hand roll at the present time.
The hand control is locked up. We can't turn anything on.
I hear him say he may have a stuck pad controller. That's not the point. Roger, what about the Gina? No, he says he has separated from the Gina and then he's in a roll and he can't stop it.
Probably the engine control system. It might just give us the correction we need.
Do I understand he's used only on skill? His brake pressure is down. Sure, it's all correcting in place.
Okay, let's work on one axis at a time here. Much better.
We're regaining control of the spacecraft slowly. In RCS direct.
Okay, well, I keep at it. We're coming in for dash 3.
I'd like to argue with him, but I don't know if we can. Command, we will prep for emergency landing at 7-3.
Gemini 8, I have some rescue data for you.
The space program was just starting, and when they put out their criteria for the type people they wanted, I seem to have all the qualifications that they were looking for. My combat experience in the Marine Corps in the Pacific was a factor. The Marines were being tossed into some of the toughest combat in the early World War II, and then went back out in the Korean War. One people who had worked on
Enjoy your day.
Было потрясающе. К тому же еще и тебя дует вентилятор и очень шикарное впечатление. Я прямо чуть не подслезился от того, какая гордость меня взяла, если бы я жил в этой стране. Вот так вот надо делать исторический, патриотический парк и приучать молодежь к патриотизму и любовью к своей стране.
If indeed the heat shield was loose, during re-entry, the spacecraft would probably get very hot. Temperatures at 3,000 degrees. The heat might burn off the heat shield, and it would kill him.
На БАМ похож. Аполлон, Шатл. Первый космонавт в космосе. Это аллея героев. У нас где аллея героев таких? Космонавтов. Ну, ВДНХ есть? Нету. Как у нас еще город ассоциируется с космосом? Где можно было бы сделать такой музей? Почему он до сих пор не сделан еще? Ну и как обычно здесь магазин сувениров. Очень интересные вещички продаются здесь. Магниты разнообразные. И игрушки, одежда, даже символика НАСА. Вот я уже даже себе прикупил кое-чего. Кому-то подарок достанется. Привезу, подарю. Очень они символичные, красивые. Монеты даже есть вот здесь. Люблю я всякую символику. Но дорого, зараза. По $7, по 8, всякая ерунда. Сделано в Китае. Ладно бы она еще в Америке была сделана, но они все, практически все из Китая привезенные. Поэтому ценность у них не такая уж и большая. Например, серебряные.
NASA wants to lease out one or more of these other high bays to the commercial space industry and allow them to build their spacecraft here. The building was initially designed to assemble 4 Saturn V rockets simultaneously. There are 70 different cranes and lifting devices in there. So this concept is easily accomplished. Just to the left of the building, you see the 355-foot mobile launcher we're building for that rocket. Once it's completed, one of our crawlers will take it into VAB. We'll begin to assemble that rocket on board. It should be sometime within the next year. You notice the high bay doors are partially opened there. Those doors slide open horizontally on the bottom. The panels stack and lift vertically up into the roof, making them the largest operating doors in the world at 456 feet tall. These panels weigh about 32 tons apiece. It takes 45 minutes to open and close these doors. These cream-colored buildings you see here were the orbiter processing facilities, and that's where we worked on and stored Atlantis, Discovery, and Endeavour. The two buildings closest to the road are being leased by the Air Force. They'll be refurbishing unmanned spacecraft in there. The third building over, the large mural, is where Boeing is building their Starliner capsules. That's for the commercial cruise program. They, along with SpaceX, will be taking our astronauts back and forth to the space station, ending our reliance on the Russians. The first object you see here is one of our crawlers. It's what we use to move the mobile launchers and the rockets around with. So to build a shuttle, this crawler would drive underneath that shorter platform there, pick it up off the pedestals it's on and carry it into the VAB. There are pedestals inside there and out on the pad. They'd assemble the rocket, then a crawler would go back in, lift it up. It would begin its 6 to 8 hour journey to the pad. After the launch, a crawler would go and get the platform, bring it back, and the cycle would begin all over again. Underneath the platform, if you look carefully, you'll see there's 3 huge openings there. 2 for the solid rocket boosters, 1 for the main engines, so that at liftoff, we can let the flames down into the flame trench and away from the pad, preventing damage to the spacecraft, platform, and the pad. Same concept applies here with the mobile launcher for the SLS. It's sitting on pedestals as well. You'll see there's a huge opening here in the front for those main engines. Talked about the high bay doors on the east and west side of the building. There are large gray sliding doors on the north and south side. It's called the transfer aisle, running the length of the building. As wide as an 8-lane highway, where the various parts of the spacecraft go in, and they're sent to their high base for stacking and assembly. Right next to our launch control is the brains of the operation here. 4 firing rooms in there. We used all of them in the Apollo program. 2 for shuttle, they're updating 1 with state-of-the-art fiber optics for the SLS. The crawler from here, those tracks you see, have 57 cleats or shoes. Each one of those cleats weighs 1 ton. You look at the top of the tracks, the cylinders going vertically up into the crawler are hydraulic jacks. That can raise and lower the crawler about 10 feet. Top speed 2 miles an hour when it's unloaded, 1 mile an hour when it's carrying a payload. And even though it's one of the first hybrid vehicles, it doesn't quite get the mileage of a Prius. They get about 32 feet per gallon in fuel consumption. Over here to the right, these 2 large objects you see are flame deflectors. They're made of refractory concrete and steel. So you can see they're subject to tremendous heat. We're in the process of refurbishing those flame deflectors. The concrete material is called fondue fire. They're going to be replacing that. It withstands temperatures of about 5,600 degrees. It actually boils during the launch. So when these are done being refurbished, they'll be placed back into the flame trench.
When I was a kid, I used to dream about flying through space. Every week on TV, I'd watch my heroes as they jumped into their rocket ships and took to the stars. And I wanted to be like them. They had courage, imagination, and no problem ever stood in their way for long. You know, in the end, when we actually did send men into space, it turned out that those were exactly the qualities it took. I'm John Hudson. This is Pad 39 of the Kennedy Space Center. I was a launch controller here when from this very spot, man took off to fly to the moon. It was a journey that began 12 years before that rocket ever left the ground. And it started on the other side of the world. Back then, we were one of two superpowers that always seemed to be on the edge of a terrible war. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first ever man-made satellite into Earth orbit. They called it Sputnik, which means traveling companion. And in a world where peace hung in a delicate balance, it seemed to create a dangerous advantage. Every ham radio operator in America could hear it beeping. People were afraid. Were the Soviets looking down on us? Watching us? If they could make a satellite pass over our cities, could they do the same with a bomb? Our own space program kicked into high gear, and less than 2 months later, we were ready to launch our own satellite. Space race, and we were running a distant second. In 1961, we fell even further behind. Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first man into space, circling the world in just 89 minutes. We had our own astronauts, and they were eager and ready to take the big ride. But our manned space program couldn't seem to get off the ground. We stuck with it, and on May 5th, 1961, things finally started going right. Astronaut Alan Shepard took his ship Freedom 7 6.5 miles into space. America had its first space hero. Just a few days later, our space program received a new challenge. But this one did not come from the Soviet Union. It came from our young president. In one inspiring moment, he changed the mission. From one based in fear of the present to one of hope for the future.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
We hadn't been more than 16 minutes into space, and now we were going to the moon. We would have to design a rocket the size of a 36-story office building, put it together with the precision of a microscope, and accelerate it to the speed of a bullet. Then we would have to guide it to a moving target 250,000 miles away. Many people thought it was an impossible dream, but 400,000 of us set about making that dream a reality. It would be the longest, most hazardous voyage that any man had dared to attempt. But step by step, mission by mission, we orbited the Earth, perfecting the skills and technologies we would need on this incredible journey. Our astronauts practiced maneuvering, docking, and the 1,000 other tasks that would comprise the moon mission. We created new alloys, lighter and stronger than anything seen before. We designed communication systems that would be reliable over the vast distances. And behind it all, we tried to perfect the rocket that would be powerful enough to punch out of Earth orbit and take us to the moon. One day, however, the dream of flying to the moon almost slipped away. It was January 27th, 1967. Astronauts Virgil Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee were on board Apollo 1 for a plugs-up test, a full-scale dress rehearsal for the actual launch. Suddenly it happened. There was a fire in the capsule. 3 men whose lives have been in our hands were lost.
Surely the opening vistas of space promise high costs and hardships, as well as high reward. But this country of the United States was not built by those who waited and rested and wished to look behind them.
After Apollo 1, some thought we'd fail, and that the moon was out of our reach. But we owed it to those men, to learn from their sacrifice, and to carry on. We started taking the Apollo vehicle apart, piece by piece. Was the design flawed? Had safety been compromised? Tough questions. And we spent 1.5 years redesigning the spacecraft so that no astronaut's life would ever be at risk because we overlooked something, or because we could have done something better. A moon rocket is 91% high explosive, and it goes into the most unforgiving, hazardous environment there is. We could never make it risk-free, and the men who flew them knew that. We didn't send men into space again until Apollo 7 orbited the Earth testing some of the new designs. When everything worked perfectly, the decision was made. The next mission would travel to the moon. It was mankind's destiny to leave the shores of our planet behind and strike out across the vast ocean of space. In the great span of our history, now was the time that we could. Now was the time that we would. We stood on the eve of the longest, most dangerous journey that any man had ever undertaken. And it would be taken by Frank Borman, James Lovell, and William Anders, the crew of Apollo 8. Through those doors, you'll find the firing room, launch control, just as it was on December 21st, 1968. She was the first of a new kind, a moon rocket. This was the Phoenix, risen from the ashes of Apollo 1. The first Apollo crew did not die in vain. This was to be their testament. "36 stories high, she had been fully fueled throughout the night. The liquid oxygen in her tanks caused ice to form on the outside of the craft. The extreme temperature differences between the air and the sub-zero fuel caused the metal skin of the rocket to expand and contract. Everyone who was on the pad agreed. It was as though the rocket was alive, breathing, straining at the leash. Earlier in the morning, astronauts Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders had made their final preparations before taking that long ride out to the waiting spacecraft. The minimum safe distance from a Saturn V at liftoff was 3 miles. The reason was simple. When fully fueled, the rocket contained the explosive power of an atomic bomb. As the clock counted down, the astronauts, and all of us in launch control, went through the pre-flight checks, our hands on the controls of the most powerful, most complex machine ever built. It had over 2 million separate systems, and to bring these men back alive, everything had to work perfectly. Each individual system had been tested, but what we didn't know was how they would perform when all 2 million began to work together. That moment would come when the countdown clock reached 0. If a maneuvering thruster failed, if communications broke down, if navigation was off by 1 degree, if any piece of the miles of wiring, circuits, relays, or valves was defective, Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and Bill Anders would pay with their lives. As they sat waiting for launch on that chill December morning, these 3 astronauts were back to what they had always been, test pilots. You are now in the final minutes before the launch of Apollo 8, right here where it actually happened. Mankind is about to leave his planet behind and journey to another. It is one of those rare moments when history is not being made, destiny is being embraced.
This is launch control, T-minus 3 minutes and counting. We have completed our communications checks with the Apollo 8 astronauts in the cabin, and the communications are go. Hit the switch list aboard the track. 20 seconds, all aspects, we are still in go at this time. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10,
8 successfully orbited the moon, and the astronauts returned safely to the Earth. I know. I'm Jim Lovell, and I was one of the crew of this spacecraft, Apollo 8. We were the first men to see the surface of the moon from just a few miles away. But it was the hundreds of thousands of men and women who worked in that team, and the millions of people who supported the mission that really made it possible. That way, I guess, we all went to the moon. Now, on the other side of those doors, you'll find an actual Saturn V moon rocket. It's still the most powerful, the most complex machine ever built. And I guess it's the only one that could take you to another planet. I actually got to fly one on a second flight to the moon called Apollo 13. But that's another story.
Собственно, говорить здесь нечего, все понятно. домой.
Hello. How are you? I am from Russia, Moscow.
From where?
From Russia, Moscow.
Russia. Okay. Is that a camera?
Yes, camera. American camera.
What kind?
American camera, DJI.
Very good.
Yes.
Never seen one like that.
Ну как же без еды-то? Без еды никуда. Hello. Ну, тут можно потрогать частичку Луны.
Stick your hand in there. Don't touch it.
Давай.
Okay, we touched the moon rock. That's fascinating, isn't it?
Ну, как камень. Like stone.
Yeah.
Stood on the highest ground, and we saw our planet as our home port in the endless ocean of space.
There was something which was surprising to me. It occurred as I was standing on the surface. Just after we had landed, I had gone down, standing on the surface and looking at planet Earth for the first time. Seeing the beauty, seeing the finiteness of it, the limits of it, and realizing what a shame it was that people were confronting each other on that planet without realizing what it was doing to the planet. It was a very emotional moment for me. I actually shed a couple of tears. Something totally unexpected for an engineer, fighter pilot to be crying quietly up there on the moon.
Mankind had achieved a tenuous foothold in the heavens, and a new and exciting world lay waiting to be explored. The first mission had stayed for only 1 day, but over the next 3.5 years, 5 more Apollo missions visited the moon, and with each one, we stayed longer, roamed further, and discovered more.
I never thought when I was a kid building rockets, in high school, that we would go to the moon, before the end of the century. I mean, I thought that was something that was way in the future, fantasy.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a very early month of December. Hey, look at the size of that rock. That is the best sample we got. Just don't stub your toe.
We have got to understand that as a people, we need to stretch. We need to reach beyond our grasp. We need to strive to do things that seem impossible because in the accomplishment of them, we move society forward.
Boy, isn't the beauty of this place is just absolutely incredible.
One of the astronauts has said those hills that we climbed give our children and grandchildren a different perspective, that they see the mountains that we couldn't see. And so what we consider impossible, they're dreaming about.
3, 2, 1. What a ride, what a ride.
When I have a chance to talk to kids, I tell them, the first thing I tell them is to take the word impossible out of their vocabulary. Go to their teacher tomorrow morning and scratch it out in the dictionary. The word doesn't exist. If I can stand here and tell you that I lived on the moon, that I called the moon my home for 3 days, you tell me what is impossible in this day and age, much less in a generation that follows, much less.
I would like to be an astronaut. I like to design rockets.
Payload specialist.
I'd be a ground controllers. The thing that my mom can't understand is I'm terrified of heights, but I want to be an astronaut. There's so many things I'd love to do. I would explore, I'd look for everything. I would try to start a farm. Millions of other galaxies that you might be able to live in. It's the unknown. Anything's possible.
You may be able to cure certain diseases.
Climb wires and dance on it.
Play basketball, but you can still be short. Because then you could like fly up in the air.
Baseball would be awesome. Hit the ball, you get a home run every time.
There are a lot of things that could benefit mankind that because of science we simply cannot do on Earth.
It's such a big universe, and it's kind of strange to think that just this one tiny planet was chosen to have life on it. I hear they're finding new planets or moons, and they're finding out more about how stars are working, and it makes me feel like it's trying to tell me something.
What's it trying to tell you?
That you belong up there with them.
The Apollo program ended in December of 1972, but our journey into space is just beginning. I'm Neil Armstrong. The future of space travel is being written right now in the dreams and imaginations of a new generation. Perhaps that's the greatest legacy of Apollo. It shows our children and grandchildren that with courage, imagination, and the will to explore, no dream is impossible.
Просто потрясающе. Просто шикарно. И вот каждые 15 минут происходят такие спектакли здесь. Великолепно.
Eu vou mamãe, tá, papai?
Mas toma conta do centro.
Композиты, легкие материалы. Все полагается.
Venga, Gabriel.
Торжественный Луны. Что, друзья, побывал я на мысе Канаверал в музее Кеннеди. Потрясающее впечатление. Очень все сделано качественно, на высоком уровне. театрализованные представления, обалденные. К тебе спускаются на сцену шаттл, выползает там какой-то космонавт в натуральную величину. 3D представление. Все можно потрогать, пообщаться с настоящими космонавтами-летчиками, которые там остались еще, ветераны. Сидели там двое из них. И доцент один из них преподает в университете. Бывшие летчики. И у каждого можно из них поинтересоваться. Ну, на английском языке, если хорошо знаешь английский язык, то можешь, конечно, поговорить с ними. Вот. Неизгладимое впечатление оставило на меня. Неизгладимое впечатление произвело на меня этот центр Кеннеди. Через 4 дня обещается запуск ракеты SpaceX Илона Маска. Я думаю, нужно будет поприсутствовать. Если я, конечно, не еду в другую часть Флориды, то я постараюсь побывать и посмотреть вживую, как происходит, так как наши все шаттлы и космические корабли уже давно превратят в большой театр, а здесь все в порядке вещей, нормально все работает и функционирует, и все люди заинтересованные. Прививается патриотизм. Я вот даже сейчас я сам стал патриотом Америки, потому что это реально воодушевляет, это реально чувствуется мощь страны, и каждый человек заинтересован в развитии ее. И никто не хочет уезжать. Я пообщался с людьми, они все патриоты, и не просто от дурачка патриоты, от телевизионных шоу, а вот именно из-за того, что великая история, великая страна, и каждый хочет быть частичкой ее, и ты понимаешь, что куда бы ты ни пошел, везде тебе будут рады, и везде ты будешь частью, звеном этой великой страны, и везде пригодишься. И раньше у нас в Советском Союзе была пословица: все профессии нужны, все профессии важны. Сейчас это совершенно дискредитировалось, у нас лишь бы наворовать и свалить, а здесь все вот в процессе вещей. Дворники зарабатывают себе на мустанге, на стоянке сплошные мустанги, да большие громадные машины. Я уже показывал это, что цены здесь совершенно адекватные для людей, и каждый может заработать себе на машину нормально, и это показатель стабильности и экономической ситуации в стране. Вот. Поехали дальше, посмотрим, что будет дальше. Следите за новостями.